Hello, this is just a video describing my second artifact about map and acceleration goes. So the focus of this artifact was to discuss my approach around acceleration this year and specifically on how that affected the map scores for our kiddos. So my goal was to have my teachers learn about acceleration and new approaches to their teaching that we can really focus because we know that we lost a lot of gains during NTI instructions, right? And so we also wanted to be equitable. We wanted grade level standards. We wanted to be really, really focused on this. And so I had to do some setting up and some action plans, and I was just going to show you some results and then how it's connected. And so what I did initially was I had to set up a system that allowed this time. And so I developed a master schedule where it allowed teachers extra time during the day, where we had embedded PDs and we used appropriate scaffolds so teachers would push in or support where needed. And it allowed me to work with teachers individually, like, hey, I need you to work on this acceleration with me, or hey, we need to do this training, or hey, have you worked on this with this kiddo? And so I have a small teacher population. I have 8 teachers on this side and 3 EMSD teachers on the other. So I can be really specific with that. So I took advantage of it instead of them being in class the whole time doing that. So you'll find that schedule that allows that co-teaching and blended learning there. And I will say that Heather Moss liked it so much that she took this approach, and she is having all other state agencies doing that model. So it's really, really cool work. So the action part. So what we had to do is up here is we had teacher teams. So we had them 4 times a year, and that just specifically shows you, and you can click on those agendas that talked about us teaching what acceleration is, what does it look like in the classroom, teaching them about how they're going to work with a kid on their map scores and how do they use exact path. And so a lot of those things that we had to make sure that our teachers fully understood. And so we took advantage of that during teacher teams. That's what we call it, just during the day. So teachers were expected to use exact path twice a week. So this was our approach. We're doing high level, grade level instruction, and then we also provide that exact path. So, but that's just a couple times a day, and I know that's an intervention, but it really kids were successful, and so I just took a little screenshot of one of those reports. Couldn't figure out how to get it linked for it, so I just took that. And then acceleration plans were each kid had an opportunity to have individual instruction on what their map score was, what they needed to get to that acceleration growth. So we really focus on that at least 64, and we often use 84 percentile growth on getting our kids caught up, because our kiddos are high need. They need a lot of extra supports, and so we have to be really intentional. And so that's what our action was. And then as a result, so I have my data wall that includes, just kind of where our kids are, and you can find that link there. And you'll see a lot of kids that are blacked out because a lot of times when students are here in September, and by the time December comes around, we have a completely different population. We have usually about 50% of the same kids that can be tested, but then we have brand new ones. And so, but what of those kids, if you review that, you will see that 61, or every single kid went up at least 1 point. At least 1 point. I think besides one kiddo, I will let you know he had a death in the family. But, that happens. But then the 61% earned their accelerated growth, and 30% of those students were non-white students. And then, so we talked about, this is how we analyzed and we broke down our standards, and we did it specifically for our students and our non-white students specifically. And then I have just some specific kind of proof of our acceleration growth here. Again, trying to get that link so you can actually see those results. And the exciting thing about this was by the time we finished it, our students were talking about their acceleration growth. They were talking about their scores and how proud they were. And so I really wanted to showcase this work from one of my artifacts for this. And then, of course, how it's connected to pillars. So obviously, backpack pieces would have been correlated to this action was because you have deeper level of instruction, more likely you're going to have better work assessments put in, and so they can have that backpack skills. That was something that we monitored frequently. And then definitely racial equity, because we were making sure that we promoted learning and focus at all grade levels, different forms of assessments were widely reused. We still had PLCs going on here that helped the teachers understand what grade level standards were and increasing those teaching approaches. And then, of course, the R tool that was used to make sure that they were teaching in that. So those were the two pillars. And then on our systems was system 2, because we definitely looked at our data with the MAP scores. Collaborative planning was for our teacher teams when they worked together in pairs, and we were studying those approaches. 4 is progress monitoring. Again, we got to look at student work as they moved on, looked at priority standards, and looked at their formative assessments. System 5 was our academic support, so those interventions. So acceleration, how we really focused on was making sure that we had non-remediation. That wasn't what we were trying to do, but we were trying to do high-level instruction, but then we had to come in and provide a lot of scaffolds and those specific interventions, such as Exact Path. And we also had other Tier 3 supports, push in and pull out models for certain kiddos. And then the last, System 6, is that this provided me an opportunity to meet with teachers and talk about teaching practices and then how they can better themselves as an instructor. Thank you very much.